Alright, so Hatchet. Hatchet is probably one of my favorite weapons because it's the quickest weapon. Not one. It's one of the quickest weapons. Sword and shield, spear, hatchet, rapier. Those are my opinion is the fastest weapons that you can go with. Now, anyways, hatchet primarily slash damage on light and heavies. Now, hatchet. There's so much I can say about the hatchet. Like, I don't. Your attacks on this, yes, it's quick, but when you hit something with that initial hit, you stop your forward momentum. If you hit nothing with your initial hit, you'll keep going forward, which I like. I like the forward momentum that goes. So, like PvP, hit somebody, you pop it when they're close, they roll away, you're stuck, just in there flailing in midair. You don't step forward anymore. Like, if you miss that first hit, then you'll just keep going, you know? But if they can fix that, I would like to see a little bit more, but you do even less damage than your light attacks. Your light attacks do more damage than this does. So I tended to not use this as much as a lot of people did. I preferred to go with a light, but initiate with heavy. So I initiate with the heavy, get those 4 additional attacks, and on my very last finisher, I'll get a 60% damage bonus on top of the 105 you get with it. So I did a pretty chunk of damage with it. That was nice. And you can even start off with this. You can go 1, 2, 3, and then go into a heavy attack, get the empower for that, and then get the 4 additional attack for this. Now, I tried my absolute best to get, like, without using this, just go 3 lights and then a heavy. But the weird wind up you don't have enough time to get that heavy attack off because usually you charge it too long or you don't charge it long enough and it just goes right back into a light attack. So that's where I wish they would just have the right click to be your heavy attack again. I don't know why they got rid of it. I miss it. I don't like the hold. I don't. I don't. I don't. Now, hatchets have very little CC. You have one slow and then a root if you hit them in the back when you spec into it. But again, like I said in the Sword and Shield video, I always overshoot this. So even when running away from me, I'll still miss. I tend to jump past them for some reason. Not some reason, I know why, I'm just not using it correctly. You can definitely hit this, but my tendency is I miss. Now the throwing tree, honestly, the throwing tree is pretty weak. The attacks are pretty weak. They're nice, but it's just not something that a lot of people utilize. Most of Odds are most hatchet users you run into are just gonna be all Zerker and that's it. That's it. Just berserk away. Now I primarily go into the berserker right here. Just I'll get to this in a minute. Another idea I had, but the rend just a 10% damage increase on a single target you can get. I was struggling on any of their abilities like this one. I don't know if I want to get this one or go with this one. If I go with this one, I get the cloud that lasts for 3 seconds. That's good, right? Disease, reduced healing they get. It the wind up on it is my problem. It's super slow. And you leave yourself wide. It's like the Great Axe's execute, but significantly less damage. And you can miss more likely. It does give weakness and disease, but for some reason, a lot of the time, you don't see the weakness actually proc. You mainly only see the disease proc when I was using it. So that's why I tended not to use this one too much. throwing axes, I mean, I have terrible accuracy, so I miss all the time. But with how quick the little hatchet is, and if you're using rending throw, like I was using these in sparingly. I was gonna say separately. I guess separately is alright. Anyways, him with that rend, you'll get access to this, and if you're up close, you can grab this. And if you have low HP, you'll be reduced even more, and you can bob and weave a lot more. With the hatchet, I can see it can be well done with between the passive heal you get from the Berserker tree. Now, anyways, you get a regen every 5 seconds. Is it just in this right here? Triggering a Berserk mode that increases all damage by 20%, while active Berserk mode will be active for 15 seconds. Cooldown will trigger once it breaks. No. Increased movement speed. While Berserk is active, gain a percent of your health back every 5 seconds. Amount of health gain increase the by a long Berserker is active. Okay, so that's like I said, you heal every 5 seconds, which is pretty nice, right? You can pop Berserker a lot. It's pretty nice. And this right here's also this could be dangerous, but you can also power through a lot of attacks from PvE and PvP. But you want to be careful on what you're trying to power through. That's why I like this ability. Now, with the 2 more levels I was going to get, I was planning on grabbing this one. Grabbing this for the 5% additional crit. And then the stamina back when I do get a crit with light attack or throw. So you can get a lot of stamina back. And when you dodge, you'll use 50% of your stamina. And you can attack fairly quick with the hatchet. And if they have a debuff on them, I mean, you can see where this is going, right? You can see where this is going. You can bob and weave so much with the hatchet. I love it. I love it. I primarily just light attack, and that's about it. So honestly, if they would change the okay, now I'll get to my ideas about the hatchet in a minute. So when you're going up against the hatchet, your best friend to do when they berserk is just move away from them. But the thing is, if you're not attacking them and they're chasing you down, they have increased movement speed and they heal. So your best bet is gonna be able to be just CCing them down, stuns and stuff like that. You don't want to sit there and just try face tanking a guy who went berserk and they're just wailing on you, because you can get a lot of damage out with it, especially if you have this. They have a dot on, well, not a dot, but a debuff on you. They'll be doing additional damage to you. If they're like me and you go with the empowered, they'll get even more if done right. Hitting it will give you hitting the same target 3 times with light attacks will give you fortify, so it'll be even tankier while you're trying to hit them, and they attack quick, so they get this quick. Now, with all that in mind, right, there's not much AoE you can do with a hatchet, but it is by no means a bad weapon to choose. I was going somewhere else with that, and I just got distracted because I'm thinking of this. This ability is insane. If you think about it, 10% for every enemy within 5 meters of you. You can straight up just bomb rush a whole pack of enemies, a pack of just NPCs, players. Like there's a huge skirmish going on, you jump in the middle of it, everybody around you within 5 meters will increase your damage by 10%. That's light attacks. That's this. That's this. All of this. But the kicker is chain attacks, right? Look, just think about it. Just think about it. You have that ability. You jump into a crowd of enemies. You have the immortal on the very last tree. And you have a chain attack. Chain void, lightning, fire, whatever. It will increase the chain attack damage as well. When you hit an enemy, and you're going to be cleaving enemies, right? You're going to be chain attacking everything. You're going to be doing a lot of damage out of nowhere. It it's it can get pretty heavy on the damage side if done correctly, you know. Hatchet is strong. It is a very strong weapon. The thing it lacks is CC. It has like no CC to really speak of. It has a slow and a root. Only when they're not looking at you though, which can be easily avoided. So it just really lacks the CC side of things. Damage, oh, it's good. More on the single target damage side. It doesn't have any real cleaving abilities. I guess you could say this one because you're cleaving, but it's a real short range. It has a really short range. I still find myself struggling to hit enemies that are below me or above me a little bit with the hatchet. That's still an issue from preview. They've adjusted on most other weapons, except for the hammer. Some attacks that you hit the ground will still miss, unfortunately. That's the thing. Now, its ultis. When you receive lethal damage, avoid death, reduce to 50%, 50 HP, and gain invulnerability for 3 seconds. It is a pretty hefty cooldown, which is reasonable. Successful throwing attacks extend hatchet debuffs by 30%. Honestly, this whole tree is kind of weak. Like if you're using hatchet and you're expecting it to the throwing side, use a bow. Use a musket. Even go with the magic weapons. This isn't a weapon that you go for range. A lot of it is super weak. All the other ones have AoE attacks they do. This is strictly single target range damage, which bow does significantly better at. The musket does significantly better at. The throwing side is just super weak. It really is. Which is very unfortunate. Berserker side, it's strong. I don't really care for the abilities. As you would see, this is usually my setup. I would just spec with these and I'd play with this side. So what I spent most of my Azoth on. But man, honestly, if they can get away with this, right? I'd be okay if they remove this and made it so, because when you think Berserker, you don't think one person holding a hatchet, you think a dual wielding, right? So get rid of this and make it so when you get this one, you pick up another hatchet and you're dual wielding instead. And what that does is makes your light attack combo just continuous, since there's no longer a fear of stagger locking people. I think that would make up for this. And it would also get rid of this, just give it a little bit of a damage boost for using 2-weapon. Not even a damage boost, maybe just a slight increase to attack speed. Like, make this maybe attack speed buff, or connect it with this, just something. Make this Berserker tree, you can just make it buff. You can just make it a buff tree. And it's primarily focused on combos. Heavy interweaves to light attacks, you know? I would be perfectly okay with that. I would think that'd be fun. I think that'd be great. Make this a combo style weapon. That, like when you attack normally, there's that slight stop right there where you can't do anything until you stand up fully. In heavy attacks, you can't do anything until you reset the animation. Now think about that. If you have just your hand that's just there for no ungodly reason, you're just using a one-handed weapon, you can't do anything with it. Imagine if it was dual wielding and you just can attack consistently. Just continuously slashing forward, interweaving with a heavy attack now and again. I think that'd be pretty fun. Of course, it would have to be balanced, but that's just my take on the hatchet. Now, if you're going, I already talked about how you're going up against hatchet. If you're using hatchet and you're going up against people, this tree can honestly be pretty useful, especially if you have an archer just shooting at you. You can just chuck an axe because they're quick. The axe throwers are quick. there's a big group of enemies, you just lob an axe in it. Just lob an axe. So I tended not to use these too much. I already said that 3 times now. But there's not much more I can add to the hatchet. I pretty much covered everything I wanted to with the hatchet. It's one of my favorite weapons. Sword and shield and hatchet. Hatchet is like a love-hate relationship, you know. It's fun to use, but it feels very lackluster in a lot of situations. It really does. It does. You can also, I didn't say it, but you can tank with this as well. You can taunt them for 8 seconds. And you can mix this. It could be an okay tank weapon. Especially if you're utilizing this. You can just, instead of blocking the damage, you can just avoid the damage. I think when the game drops, I will try going for a hatchet tank. I think that'd be pretty fun to do. Instead of just face tanking and just blocking everything, just dodge. Utilize the iframes a lot more, you know? I think that'd be pretty fun to do. Especially if I can keep these up. And then you have that safety net right here you can take advantage of. And when you get low HP, this will come off cooldown that much quicker. Especially for how quick the weapon is as well. You'll reduce your cooldowns by 2% every hit you do. It'd be pretty nice. I think that would be a pretty interesting thing to do with the taunt. With the Berserk. Pretty interesting to think about. Sword and Shield's probably going to be the king at that for long, because it has 2 taunts that it could do. Via Bash and this. So this is, of course, going to be the safe bet for a strong, sturdy tank build. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say. My idea for the hatchet. I'd love to hear your guys' ideas about the hatchet as well. What they could do to change it. Because it just feels lackluster, you know? It just feels like it's lacking something. It's fun. It's strong. It's good. It lacks the CC, but heavy on that damage side. You get into a big group of enemies, you can just start devastating them with against the odds. Even more so with that chain attack while Berserk is active, because Berserk increases all damage anyways. But just think about that. Chain, against the odds, Berserk. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Take care, be well, and stay amazing, everybody. Thank you for your time.